That's me. My name is Tran. This is actually, my internship was in Kerala, which is in southern India, but this was on a week trip to Delhi that I did, visiting some friends there in front of, oh no, that's not Delhi, that's Agra actually. Sorry, in front of the Red Fort. Anyway, that's not important, but that's where it is. Just a little bit about myself. I'm 23, I was born in Calgary, Alberta. I moved out here for school. I'm an only child, and on my mom's side of the family, sort of an immigrant family like everyone in Canada. On my mom's side of the family, my grandma immigrated from Germany, and my grandpa is sort of an East Coaster from New Brunswick, however many generations back. And on my dad's side, most of his family, after the American War or Vietnam War, whatever your perspective is, came over as refugees in the late 1970s. And I'm a university student who has access to going on 6-month internships and being able to come back. So here's some more shots of me in India. And the reason why I wanted to start off that way is because those parts of my identity, here and abroad, sort of really shape what kind of experiences I had. And I probably would have had a totally different experience had I been a first-generation daughter of, say, an Indian family who had come to Canada, if I was going on this internship. So this presentation is definitely not neutral. It's from my perspective based on sort of what my identity is and what that meant in this context. And I just chose those photos to just sort of, I guess, show what I would look like, and that's sort of who is walking around in India. So this isn't just sort of a neutral, this is what an internship program in India is like. It's sort of more, this was my experience based on where I'm coming from. Oh, but that's with the organization I worked with a union of domestic workers. So this was a woman the day that she got elected as sort of the president of her area in Kerala that I was at. And this is a shot in Mumbai, right before I left. So here's a map of India. Kerala is way down here. So it's as south as you can get, and the capital, I had to practice this for like a week, but Trivandrum, or Trivandrum for short, is right down, right there. So you can actually, if you go just a little bit further down to an area called Kanyakumari, see Sri Lanka, which didn't make it onto this map, unfortunately. So Kerala, see what I thought was important to say about it. It's the capital, and just for the sake of brevity, just a little bit, I guess what you need to know is that if you ever do a placement in India, as I'm sure the other two, I forget your name, sorry, can tell you, every state is different. It's a good way to think of it, somebody told me, is sort of like Europe, which we're more familiar with in Canada, where you don't think of it as Europe, every country is different. It's the same thing in India, every state, there's different languages, different food. So I won't get into Kerala too much. Other than it has the highest human development index in India, it's sort of, that's really what makes it stand out. So things like, it has the lowest infant mortality rate in India, it has the highest literacy rates, and all of these statistics are sort of right on par of what we think of being in the global north, or the developed world. Yeah, the score is 92%. I don't know how they scored it. And so, yeah, the literacy rate is 93%. So it's often used as sort of like a model of programs in developing countries of what works. So how then does an organization that I work for, an NGO, fit inside of this supposedly very developed state in India? The organization I work for is called the National Domestic Workers Movement, and Migrant Forum India. Basically, they work with two groups in the state, migrants, particularly education and advocacy initiatives for migrants going to developed countries mostly, and domestic workers. So women who work in their place of employment is somebody else's home, and they might cook, clean, take care of the children for these families, etc. So this is a domestic workers meeting. There's actually an election, another election shot. So So why is there a need for this, I guess? And what I learned is development indicators definitely don't tell the whole story. So in the literature, Kerala is always upheld as sort of this almost utopia in terms of how glowing people talk about it, but that actually doesn't tell the whole story. So one of the things, the theme of all the CAPI internships is migration. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the migration paradigm in Kerala. So if I can remember, it's a little bit complex. I took like a week-long course on it, so I'll try to boil it down. Basically, there are really high, good programs in Kerala, which a lot of people say is because of its history of communism, but that's sort of beside the point. I don't want to give you like a Marxist propaganda diatribe, but anyway, there are really good education programs, so there's a lot of educated people who come out of Kerala's education systems. But as a result of that, the market for jobs is sort of flooded, so a lot of people are unemployed. And because so many people are educated, that means they don't want to take labor jobs necessarily, so there's a lot of unemployment and a labor gap. So what a lot of people do is when they're educated, they have access to migration channels. So because of the Gulf boom in the oil countries, there's a lot of job opportunities there. So a lot of people from Kerala are going to places like Saudi Arabia, Oman, Dubai, etc. But the jobs that they get there are labor jobs, the same jobs that they're not taking in Kerala. And the conditions are the same there. That both are laborers live in really bad conditions and are exploited, and there's human rights abuses, etc. But they get paid more there. So people are going there, and then internal migrants in India are coming to Kerala because the pay for these labor and construction jobs are better there. So you have these sort of flows happening like that. And this organization is working on educating those migrants before they go. A lot of people don't know what to expect. They just sort of go because they're unemployed and are really in sort of a desperate situation. And also trying to work with other countries on bilateral agreements and other sort of things, working with organizations in Gulf countries to sort of uphold the rights of migrants, and even to let migrants or prospective migrants know what their rights are. It's a really multi-dimensional and interesting issue. Okay. I also could talk a little bit about the context of working for domestic workers and sort of what gaps there are and why an NGO like this would work with domestic workers, but I think I'll just sort of plow on because there's still 4 more presenters. So this is another election meeting in somebody's house. So the whole room was sort of filled with these women who are part of a union for domestic workers, which this organization also supports. And there was also people outside. It was really cramped. And every time I was in this sort of situation, I would have to give a speech and, you know, what do you say? I don't know. Yeah. I had to get good at giving speeches there, actually, because, yeah, this sort of situation, sitting in front of the rooms and just thrown out on the spot and say something would happen quite often. So some of the other things that I did, not in that NGO work context, so yeah, and within the context. Union meetings, I would do some of the logistics around that and documentation. In the office, I did a lot of editing English versions of things because their language of operation is Malayalam, the state language, but they were trying to make their work more accessible to people outside the state, so a lot of editing documents and that sort of thing. I attended a sort of strategic forum with other South Asian NGOs around ratifying ILO Convention C-189. Which you can ask me about after if you're interested. This is at a center called Mother Teresa's Daycare Center for children with sort of mental disabilities. I don't know if that's the PC term. And I think this is the last slide. Kerala is really beautiful, really picturesque. This is on a hike with 2 of my friends that I made Neha and Costa. Yeah, I know the current intern there is going surfing a lot. There's a lot of beautiful beaches, so it's a really beautiful place to be. And this is my supervisor. Her name is Sister Sally Michael, and one of my coworkers, Srijit. And I just wanted to close by saying this was a pretty me-centric presentation, a lot about me, but I do think that the philosophy of an internship program should be one of sort of mutual benefits for learning for the intern and also especially for the under-resourced and extremely hardworking NGOs. So I hope that I sort of had that mutual relationship going when I was there.